Are you saying you faked with me?
Yeah.
Wrong. Now you're single.
What do you know about sexual relations?
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
I'm a little worried about being a slut.
You're listening to the Come With Us podcast, talking the good, the kinky, and the ugly. Here are your hosts, Beth, Aaron, and Tina.
Hello, all you sexy holes and poles. Welcome to Come With Us podcast, where you're part of all the naughty, sexy, fun conversations everyone wants to listen in on. And today, again, we are so lucky and so excited to have Tabitha back with us for more strip club stories or gentleman club stories. But
Titty bar tales.
Oh, that's so cute. Yes, I like that.
I would name that, I would have titled these episodes that, but I know that the Apple or somebody would see it, or either like new listeners would see it and be like, what the, like, we've got to keep it like mass appeal.
Yeah.
Titty bar tales, a lot of people would look at it and be like, like, especially because you pointed out that apparently titty bar is just a southern jargon. Like everybody up north and everybody, like all of our listeners in Ireland would be like, what's a titty bar?
Yeah, and instead of saying bless your heart, we should all say bless your titties. That would be so much nicer. Yeah. But anyway, I'm Beth Darling, sexy genius here from BethDarling.com, here with Aaron and Tina and Tabitha. And yes, this is part 2. So if you haven't caught the last one, you just might want to listen to it before or after, because there's more. But today we're going to dive into the deeper, darker back rooms and even some of the stories between the women and the not so pretty, right?
Like
all about the good, the bad, the ugly. And
last week's was a lot of like talking about like comparatively. I mean, I'll make this metaphor like day shift work, and now we're getting into like Saturday night at 2:00 in the morning kind of thing, and like, oh shit! All right, so yeah. This is going to be interesting.
Harder, yes, more. Welcome. Thanks so much, Tabitha, for being with us again. And you're so patient to deal with all of our questions. I had to force Aaron and Tina to be quiet because I'm like, no, we need to do this on air. We're like, tell us quick. So, okay, where are we starting, you guys?
I mean, do we want to start with backroom, or do we want to let people wait for the payoff of that? I mean, we've already made them wait a whole week.
Yeah.
I would say, let's start. Can you explain to
let's talk about what the backroom is.
The backroom, yeah.
Okay.
And
and fees, because we want specifics.
Right. No, yeah. You want specifics.
Fees are different for everybody.
Right.
So for every entertainer.
Yeah.
So, generally the more privacy you have, the more you're going to charge per hour. The more expensive of a bottle of alcohol or wine you have to buy. So that money goes to the club.
House.
And then it's going to cost you more for the entertainer for the hour. So
I'm sorry, but I've only been to
like
one
a
or
club.
two strip clubs. Right. So people walk in the door to strip club. They pay a cover charge to get in?
Usually they do. Yeah.
Okay.
And depending on what time of day it is, if it's day, it's probably a lower cover charge. And then if it's night, it might be a little bit higher.
So
it can be anywhere from, a $5 in the day, or it can be, up to $20, $30 at night, depending on the club. Everybody's different.
Okay.
Like when I've been to the Rhino on a Saturday night in Vegas, it's $50. I think it's $50 to get in. Yeah.
Okay. And then you pay. They have to pay for drinks on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes they get free food or something, because I see those ads or something. Right.
It just depends on the club. Everything's different. Yeah.
And then once you're in, do you have to buy 2 drinks? Is it like the comedy club where there's a 2-drink minimum?
No.
Or no. Okay.
No. The places that I've been, there's not a minimum.
Okay.
And I'm sure there probably are clubs that do have minimums, but I've never worked in one of them.
Okay. So now you're in, you paid that, and you're going to pay for your drinks. So then
you want to do a backroom experience.
We'll start
or lap dance.
What happens when somebody walks up? So tell me that. Because
I mean, you go ahead. You're the insider. Like, I was just gonna say the first time I went, like, it was like a slow night, and like I sat down at a table. Like, they didn't even card me, which is funny because I was still like, I don't know, 6 months away from being 21, but they didn't even card me. And so I sat down and I ordered a beer, and then there were probably 8, 9 girls working that night. And so they would all like walk up and talk to me for a bit and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, like, cool. But like, this was also my first time. And so finally one of them, like, who, she wasn't older. Like, she wasn't like older. But she had been a pro for a while. She sat down with me and she was like, I can tell this is your first time at a strip club. I was like, yeah, it is. I was like, I literally just didn't want to sit in traffic because there was a chemical spill on the freeway on my way home.
That's what he said.
I promise you, it's sad. It's really sad.
Yeah.
Like that was my motivating factor. Is I literally had just gotten out of a serious relationship, and I was just like, and there was a chemical spill, and this is pre-iPhone,
right?
And my Garmin GPS was like, you have a 2.5 hour delay ahead, and I was like, I'm not spending 5 hours to get from Austin to Houston,
right?
Like, screw that. And it was that or a Shell station, and so I was like, cool, I'll pull in there. So, and she was like, yeah. And I was like, yes, ma'am, this is my first time in here. I was like, I kind of just trying to kill time. And she was like, okay, let me explain everything. And she was like, all these girls coming to talk to you are like leaving the door open if you want to dance or anything like that. And I was like, oh. And she was like, the ones you find like attractive, that like when she comes up, or you tell one of us, and like, she was like, you can tell me, like, it's not going to hurt my feelings if you don't find, because she had said something to me about finding her attractive, and she had said, like, kind of asked, and I was like, no, you actually like kind of look like somebody I know who like, and it like somebody I don't have a sexual or
I'm glad you didn't say you look like my mother's friend or something.
No,
that
but I was like,
her,
I was like, honestly,
okay.
you look like a really long time friend who I have never seen that way. I was like, you're very beautiful. She's very beautiful, but like crossing that line would be very weird for me on the inside. She was like, okay. She was like, just if you want a lap dance later, just point to a girl and I'll go get her attention, and I'll walk you through the whole thing. And I was like, oh, okay.
So Tabitha, the women, I'm surprised they wouldn't have asked him, do you want a lap dance? Is that common to not like be direct?
Some women are not. Some entertainers are not as direct. Everybody has a different style. And like, I have to appreciate the fact that she was so open and saying like, this is your first time, and kind of showed you the ropes, because I've had those people before where they're like, this is my first time, I don't know what I'm doing. And I tell them like, I want this to be a good experience for you. So I'm a safe space for you.
Yeah.
and you just talk to them about kind of how things work, and, you know, and how, again, if they find somebody attractive, if they like blondes, brunettes, redheads, whatever, just to either talk to me, talk to the waitress, because the waitress in the strip club is your best friend.
Yeah.
Like, if you want any information, talk to the waitress. She will hook you up.
Really?
Like, yeah, they know everybody. They know everybody's business model. They know what everybody who's working. They know who would be a good fit for you. If you want somebody who's really funny or just really sultry and sexy, or you want whatever you want. Like, there are guys that come in there and talk about finances, and there are women that will do that, which is crazy in my mind. But at the same time, you know, some of them have just amazing knowledge of business.
My dad used to go to this club in Houston, and he knew this guy who used to operate out of a club, like do business out of the club. And it was something that he would just conduct his, you know, everyday business from like the club, and he would have people come and meet them there. And I think, you know, girls sit around and listen and stuff. So it was
it's so funny.
An office space.
Right.
in some way.
Well, with technology the way it is now, you can work from your phone all the time, and people do. They'll come in there. They just want to get away from everybody, and they know none of their colleagues are going in. So it's a safe space.
I never thought about that. I wonder if the business did pick up during the day during the pandemic.
Well,
if people
no,
were
because
working.
they were all
Strip
shut
clubs
down.
Are closed.
Oh,
Remember they
yeah.
had to do the drive-through strip clubs.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh God, that's
Yeah,
right. I totally
yeah.
forgot.
Yeah.
Okay. I forgot.
So
Okay.
But
So-
I mean, in the age of technology,
funny.
there are. If I had that kind of a job where like accountant or like something like that, where I didn't actually have to go meet people or be in person somewhere, like I could definitely see the appeal of like, I'm going to take my phone or my iPad and I'm going to go sit at the titty bar and I'm going to drink beer and I'm going to get my work done. And every now and then I get to look up and see a really great pair of tits right in front of my face. And then I'll throw $20 and then I'll go back to work. Like,
I love that. Maybe that's
like,
where I should
that would be
coach my
heaven.
clients, you know,
Yeah.
like, look, if you can move
well, there was
like that.
there was and it closed down, but years ago, this is, I think like 2008, there was and this is really off topic. Sorry, I'm going to waste some time here. There was a men's haircutting barber shop in Australia that was topless.
Yeah.
And it was all female barbers and they were all topless. And it
did well.
And the guy who owned it, he had owned strip clubs before and he had owned swingers clubs or something like that. And he was like, why not? He was like, every barbershop now was like getting into this game of like, hey, we'll serve you a beer. We'll give you a free beer while you get your haircut kind of thing. He was like, I've got all these like women who know how to cut hair and who are strippers or have been strippers. Like they like, and Australia is also like apparently a really free, like nudity ain't no big deal anyway. So he was like, I've got all these attractive women who are completely willing to do this topless. Why not have, he was like, And I think the selling point, because I remember the bit of audio from the radio days, he was like, do you know how nice it would feel to have a nice soft breast land on your shoulder as she's like shaping your eyebrows? I mean, not your eyebrows, your sideburns. And like every guy in the world heard that and was like, I need to go to Australia for a fucking haircut.
Yeah.
Like,
hell yeah.
that would
and
be
they've
perfect.
tried like nude, cleaning services and stuff. So
Those still exist.
But back to like, so
Okay.
we were on the back club part,
Yeah.
the back room stuff. So it basically, I think you can explain it better, but I think it generally works like a club, right? Like you buy a bottle and then you get to have like the back area, right? And then I think you pay for the dancers and their
Yes.
services.
So usually it's an hourly rate. So it's, on everybody charges what they charge, but the club generally sets the price range. So if you're going to one area, the bottle of wine costs $100 minimum and the entertainer gets $300. And then if you go to another a more private area, then it's $250 or $300 for a bottle of wine, and the price goes up to $300, $400, $500. And so each level of privacy, the bottle is more expensive, but also the entertainer's time. And every time I've talked to the entertainers, they say, oh no, I said, do you just get $500 for an hour sitting back there? And they said, oh, I start at $500 an hour. And there are girls that charge $1,000 or $1,500, and I don't know what they feel they do that warrants that much money. But you know what? If somebody is willing to pay
Supply
it,
and demand.
yeah, and that's exactly it.
So
There's somebody that wants to pay that.
At your club, was there any sort of like you can't do this in the back room kind of thing? Were there rules? And stuff like
you were not allowed to do. You were not allowed to do sexual services. Yeah, because that is prostitution and it is illegal.
And someone is
and yet
monitoring.
they do it anyway.
Some would.
Some places.
So how many levels of back room is that? Like you said, each one is like tiered. Like how many tiers are
it's
there?
different. I mean, there can be 2 tiers where it's just a little bit more private, or there can be 3 or 4. Every club is different. Like there are clubs that have if you're going to get a dance, you might be in a big common area, like along a big couch or something.
Yeah, like I've seen that before.
Right, but there's also I've never worked in these clubs, but I know there are clubs where it's like if you're going to have a dance, you get a little room. It's like you're in a closet, and so there is a bit of a door. And I don't, again, I've never worked one of those clubs, but I know that there
Sounds
is
claustrophobic to me.
Same. Yeah, I didn't want any part of that.
Like,
Yeah.
and I start hyperventilating.
But there's no way that they're charging whatever, and their rates are going up, and that's not about exchanging sexy. I mean, right?
Exchanging sexy, yes, but not necessarily sex.
You mean penetration?
Yes.
Okay, so blowjobs. But I'm
Maybe
assuming
not.
those are not supposed to happen either, right?
I mean, technically, by the letter of the law, no, they are not allowed to happen.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They're
And
not
that goes for
allowed.
Vegas too, because prostitution is illegal in Vegas.
Did you hear about that happening though? Was that something common?
Yeah, absolutely. There were different, and I asked some of my coworkers. I said, one of them that was, open about what she did. And I asked her, I said, what do you charge? And she says, well, it depends on what room I'm in. So, a blowjob could start at $350 an hour or $350, and it could go up from there. So if they were in a more private room, she was going to charge $500-$600 for it. And it could only take, 5 minutes.
And I don't think that we're here to demean
No.
sex work, right? In any form or capacity.
Yeah,
we're just trying to kind of find out.
No, this is just interesting.
And I'm
This is-
envious because I'm thinking, shit, during my marriage, if I had gotten paid, $400, $500 every blowjob, oh my God.
Well, it is the oldest profession for a reason. I feel that it should be that sex work needs to be legalized because it makes it safer for the people involved in it.
Right.
But
why it's okay to rub somebody's shoulders and not rub their cock. I mean, I'm sorry.
It's
It's
the human
ridiculous.
body is
It's the body.
it's a natural thing. We all have it,
Right.
But I would say with consent, and right now you
Consent.
the
Yes,
whole
with consent.
do not go into a strip club expecting more than what is traditionally expected. Like, don't go in there and be expecting a blowjob because I think that's not how it is, at least right now today.
Well, but do you think they can go in there expecting they can ask for that?
Yeah, but I would say that I'm guessing there are certain scenarios, and you probably can attest to this, where men have probably asked for certain things and women have said no, and then there can be issues, or they can get, I don't know, do guys have ever gotten mad or said oh, well, other girls would do this, why wouldn't you do this, or something like that,
Like you said last week, the whole agreement with your partner is that you weren't going into the back room at all.
Right.
How often did you get proposition to go to a back room, and like what kind of I guess to her response,
Repercussions.
what kind of responses did different guys have?
So a lot of times when I would get asked to go to back rooms, it was after when I was doing a lot of times I call it the test drive. So they want you to do a couple of dances to make sure that they are actually, there's a chemistry there and they like you. And then they'll ask you different questions. They'll ask you if you play. And so there's different levels. If you say yes, then the conversation goes further. I never played.
Strip club jargon.
Yes.
Yeah,
now you know.
I like that.
And I feel like that's a safe way to say are you down to fuck? No, it's do you play? It's it's very open and it's non-threatening.
Yeah.
And I always said no. And there were times where I had people say oh, come on, and they try to convince me. And the answer was always no. It never changed. And I really made a point to, and this was part of our agreement. I didn't drink when I was working because I needed to keep my wits about me, because especially when you're working with people later at night and they've been drinking, I don't want to be putting myself in a compromised position. And so I never had anyone get real mad at me. There was disappointment, perhaps, but at the same time, I was always more than happy to help them find somebody who might have a different business model than I.
So
I love that.
So you were like a referral company.
Yeah.
Did you ever get tipped out from the girls who were
No, I didn't, and I know I made some of those girls a lot of money. But you know
that's
what?
fucked up. I would have been auctioning my services in the locker room and been like, hey, by the way.
Yeah, just like the DJ won't play
like,
your song. I'm like, hey.
Right?
I would have been like, hey, by the way, Candace made $1,500 for that last hour, and she also cut me another $250. So that's what I can do for you.
I feel like
Because that's honestly, sorry to interrupt you, but that's honestly a really good fishing lure in and of itself, is having an attractive young woman like yourself who will entertain, but to a certain level that some men want more, and then being like, I won't, but I can tell you who will, or I can find somebody kind of referral business where you could be like, hey, I can recommend you, or I can recommend her. She gave me $200. What are you gonna do you want to be on par with that? Or
I'm sure there are girls who probably threw dances your ways too, or said hey, she's the type that you're looking for in terms of looks and stuff.
Quite possibly, yeah. I don't know. I had a couple who I would sit with, and I really, really liked them, and but they wanted to go to the back room, and I was not there for that. But so I introduced them to the environment and got them comfortable, and they got a few drinks in them. And I introduced them to the dancer or the entertainer, and then I left and the entertainer took over. And the entertainers from that never gave me any never tipped me out, which kind of hurt. But I was talking with a client at another time, and he said, so you are kind of like a concierge, or you're kind of enabling this activity. And I said, I don't know what activities they did. As far as I know, she just danced. That's all I have knowledge of, and so, but he also pointed out that if I got paid, that would make me something that was not ideal, which, is a pimp.
No. And I stick up for you.
Because it's not like that, because it's honestly, like you said last week about, tipping the DJ of hey, I don't want to go up now, or hey, they're throwing a lot of money. Here's $50. Get me out there to get 1,000. I honestly don't think it's that way, because you're not coercing them into doing it.
True.
If they're approaching you about it and you going, look, it's honestly would be hey, if somebody came and asked me hey, do you know who could, fix a car? I'd be I can't fix that part of your car, but I know somebody who can, and call somebody. That's not on you to be that's not, I wouldn't think of that as a pimp. I would, because there's also no force. There's no repercussions. Again, these girls weren't giving you anything to make it worthwhile to recommend that.
Did you always feel safe at the club? Generally?
Yeah. I did. Again, I was sober. And so that was fine. But there was always managers. There were several managers. There was always security guards around there. At night, when there was more drinking, there were more security guards. So in every club I've been at, they've had different levels of security and things like that. I always find during the day, there's a little bit less, but it's not as busy. People aren't getting drunk. They're going for a drink at lunchtime, So it's just a different vibe. But yeah, I never felt unsafe. There are clubs that probably didn't have that great of security and didn't, but I've never felt unsafe.
What's one of the funniest stories you can tell us about the back rooms?
For somebody who doesn't really go in them, I've been back there a couple times, just kind of by default. Usually, the air conditioning or the heating is best back there. So if I was cold or hot, I would go back there for a temperature change. But I remember one night I was working and there was a girl, one of my coworkers forgot her purse, which I don't know how you forget your purse when it is the thing with all of your worldly
Why did you
cash.
take it back there?
Well, she was back there with a
But
person.
Oh, and then she
Oh,
went
that
back out
kind
to
of
the front
purse,
room.
not
And then
like
she was-
her like everyday like
No,
walking
no, no, no,
around.
no.
This was her. This was
Okay.
So
Like a money
we,
bag.
so we all carry a little purse with us. It's full of lip gloss and our phone and money.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what
Okay,
it is.
but yeah, it's not like not what I
No,
was
she's
thinking.
not
of, like,
bringing like a gym
she's
bag.
got
with
her
her.
Right.
she's
No.
got her ID and her like
No.
wallet and like 6 things of freaking gum that are all stuck together.
So,
Yeah, okay.
so her little bag was back there, and she said, "Hey, she had a client." So she was one of those ones that just she hustled, and she went from client to client, client. She's like, "Hey, go back there, grab my purse." We were at this station, this like area, seating area. I go, okay, fine. So I go back there, and I'm hearing like this noise, and I don't know what it is. And I turn around to my right, and sitting there is this just beautifully dressed couple. They look like they just came from church. They're in their 70s. And this is probably one of the music is playing. It's Saturday night late.
So is this like a common room, back room, or was
No,
this
no, no.
one
This
of the
is
private
the
ones?
private room. Okay. So I'm going back, grabbing her purse, turning around and seeing like a woman dressed, watching her husband get the loudest blowjob I've ever heard in my entire life. And I love it because she was just, I think she had a smile on her face. And I'm sure she was really happy that one, her husband was happy. And two, she didn't have to give the blowjob. Do you know what I mean?
God, this is awesome. I can picture it now. Sunday after church. What are you doing? We're going to the strip club. It's Celebration Sunday.
I have so many questions that I know you cannot
that.
answer.
In their
But-
70s. Yes.
Yeah.
Good
I love it. Hey, and you know what? The fact is he wasn't there by himself. She was wholeheartedly supportive of this whole thing.
How
Maybe she couldn't.
wonderful.
I don't know. But at the same time, like I love it.
gag reflex or something. Some
Oh,
people just,
Yeah. And apparently the person doing the job did not have one
Yeah,
at
right.
all. It was impressive. And then
Wow.
so I scuttled out of there as quickly as possible, but that always stays in my mind.
Did you-
that one?
I love that.
So like the entertainer who was doing it, did you know that she had done that kind of stuff already, or was that your first like being like, oh shit, like she does that in the
Oh,
back room?
This that particular entertainer, I knew she sold services. She was well known. And I mean, she was well known for if you come in and you are ready, if you have thousands of dollars and want to party, whatever that means, all night long, she will keep you out all night long. She will take you, you'll go places, and there was very little that was off the table with her. That was her business model, and
Holy shit!
Wow.
but at the same time, I that was the only time I ever saw her do something like that in there. But again, didn't go to the back a lot.
Yeah.
So
Did you look at her a little bit different, knowing that you've actually like seen her giving a blowjob at that point?
you know, and I don't even, that didn't even bother me because
Not
again,
even a bothering.
no.
It's just like I don't know, like
Oh,
It's
Aaron,
that
you're going to
weird-
get your eyes opened.
no, but it's
No.
that weird of like to me, like we've talked about it before of like the curiosity of like, hey, I wonder what that person walking down the street looks like naked.
Yeah.
Then there's somebody that you know and work with and be like, I don't feel like the thought ever popped into your head of like, hey, I wonder what she looks like with a cock in her mouth. And then all of a sudden you turn around and you're like, oh, now I know what she looks like with a cock in her mouth. That's
That's what
fucking
it's like going
interesting.
to sex parties. Like you see people doing all this stuff. It's like, oh my God, real life porn movies. Yeah.
And
It's crazy.
so, we talk about like judgment of like you guys kind of judging girls. And so was there a lot of like cattiness between the girls? Were there some girls that just like everyone didn't like? Were there certain rules that like, or like certain things you kind of did to keep the peace, or people did to keep the peace?
it just depends. I mean, there's always somebody in the crowd that's going to start drama
Right.
for no reason. There was, when I worked in the day shift, it was a lot of regulars coming in, and so it was a lot of regular like girls who worked day shift because their kids were in school or and so it was really chill. And we were all there to help each other. We were like, if I was with somebody, if I was with one of my regular clients, I'd be like, girl, go talk to him. he's got a lot of dollars,
Mhm.
you know? He's got when guys walk in with a wad of cash and I'm busy, I'm going to tell my girlfriend, go over
Right.
there, you know?
So it was more like a helpful environment. kind of
Totally.
made it, yeah.
Nighttime was a little bit more cutthroat. I remember one time I actually had a girl who, I had somebody who tipped me like $100 on stage. And I was like, when you tip me $100, I will come sit with you when I'm off stage.
Right.
That's the rule. For anybody who wants a girl to come sit with them, $100 is a really great starting point.
Wow. Okay.
20 is usually pretty good. 100 will definitely get their attention.
Okay.
But so I went and sat with this guy, and I sat with him for a couple hours, and you know, it was just sitting, and he wanted the attention of a lot of ladies. So that night it was me and 3 or 4 other girls that sat with him all night long.
Mm-hmm.
And we all left and we sat around the table. We sat around. He wanted us to drink. So, I mean, I drank soda water with lime all night long. You know, some of the other girls did shots. Some of the other girls drank wine. Everybody's a little different, but he wanted to be that presence within the club. He wanted everybody to see that. But when so we had fun. We all left with, I don't know, $2,500 that night.
So wait, so when they just want to talk, do they tip you every 5 or 10 minutes kind of thing? Do they tip you? How does that
Everybody's
work?
different. I used to have somebody I would sit there and just chat with him while I was killing time before my regular came in. And he would just hand me $20 and be like, oh, I think you dropped this. And just hand me $20 every couple of minutes or whatever, just because I was killing time with him. And it was just having a conversation without pressuring him. It's different for everybody. Like I know girls who will sit and chat and they'll be like, look, if you want me to stay, it's going to be $300 an hour or $500 an hour. And that's after like 10 minutes of talking to you. And if you don't do it, they go. But that business model works for them, obviously, because they've been in this long term.
It's
insane.
I cannot contemplate having anybody I would want to talk to for that much money.
Right.
I wouldn't talk to my favorite celebrity. I wouldn't talk to my hero for that much money. Like I would never pay that much to just meet some. Like, get the hell out of here.
So-
I'd been like, all right, cool. I can go sit at to me, I could go sit at a bar and talk to an old 85-year-old man who's seen some shit and get a really good life story out of him.
Yeah.
Well,
And that's the difference.
Maybe I'll
right?
buy him $20 worth of beer and I'm good. Like
there was, like going back to this one client, the next week he came in again on that Saturday night and he asked for me instead of the girl he sat with before he sat with me. And she lost her mind, just absolutely lost it.
Like public in front of everybody or in the back, like in the locker room?
We went in the back and she was just screaming at me and I was completely clueless. I had no idea. And I said, look, I didn't know that he was your client. I never approached him. And she was losing her mind. Well, thank goodness for the house mom who was there at the time. And she was like, she told me, she said, go get out of here. She's just being a brat. And she talked her down. Because like the fact is the one thing about strip clubs is you may be the flavor of the week, but somebody, the same guy can come in and next week not even want to look at you. And he may want somebody totally different. And that's what you have to accept about working in a place like that. You may not be what somebody wants again and again and again. Right. Exactly. Baskin Robbins is around for a reason. Yeah.
And were there girls that people they just did not get along with anyone?
Yeah. Everybody's a little different. But if you are just not friendly to anybody, people will turn on you.
Right.
And there was this one time where one girl who nobody liked because she was just mean to everybody. She wouldn't acknowledge your existence unless she needed something from you. And I don't know. I never know who did it, but somebody stuck the most disgusting, crusty G-string in her like locker handle, and we all saw it. But everybody who heard about it ran over to the locker and were laughing, and nobody felt bad for her because everybody's sentiment was, that's exactly what she deserves. And like, you know what though? If you are an ugly person, people will recognize that. And the truth is she may be pretty on the outside, but she is ugly on the inside.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. Yeah. And everybody sees it.
And did she last like long in the club, or was she?
She's what I call a heavy hitter. Okay. Like she is somebody that will go for the throat. Like there are guys that will come in and this is not common, but there are guys that have no budget. So they just spend whatever. And there are some dancers or entertainers that will charge them $5,000 to hang out for a couple hours and or more. Right. And it does get excessive, and it's at that point it's greed. But yeah, she's one of those ones where I'm like, what do you do for $1,000 an hour in here? Because she's usually, as far as I knew, wasn't performing services in the club.
So like when you like the last time you were working, like her attitude still hasn't changed. She's still kind of like a garbage human being towards others.
I have not seen her in several months. And I remember one time she needed a tampon and she was super friendly to me. And I told her no when I had a full box in my locker, because you always keep them around because that's what women need when they're wearing G-strings and nothing else. And I didn't give that to her and she was super friendly and cheery and everything. And I just want no part of that.
Yeah.
That's interesting because like it's very different. Like it's a different dynamic because I worked at Discount Tire and primarily just it's a bunch of guys working together. And when somebody came in with an attitude like that, either from when they started or they transferred it, whatever, if they had that kind of attitude, everybody on crew would look at each other and we would all talk to each other behind like stacks of tires and be like, we're going to get them to quit. And we would just make that person's life hell until they finally went to lunch and never came back. And that happened all the time. Or they went and they went to the manager like, hey, I want to transfer. I don't want a different, like, so if you're not going to be part of the crew,
what I'm hearing
on the
is
team,
women are nicer.
No, they just won't be as aggressive to get somebody out. They won't cut, like we would cut a guy like that out like a cancer because we would go, we are a team of 15. We need to get these cars moving as fast as possible. And if you're going to be an asshole to everybody and you're going to make everybody's job harder, we will make sure that you're not on the team.
This is independent contractors.
Yeah, we were never a team. Now, don't get me wrong. We would sit at a table and be like, we're gonna get that bachelor party or whatever. But at the same time, it was not worth my time to deal with her because she and I didn't have the same clientele. She offered different services than I did, so she was never in my way. She was never a threat to me. And the fact is we didn't work very many hours together, so we really didn't overlap a lot. So I didn't have to deal with her. Yeah. And the fact is she made a lot of money for herself and she made just as much for whatever club she was working for. Yeah. So the club liked her. Yeah. Yeah.
And I will say that when it comes to like raising the rates, there are people who really, they think if they spend a lot of money, they're getting better quality and stuff. And so she didn't have to change what she offered, right? Some people just felt good and they felt more successful and whatever by paying her shit tons of thousands of dollars. So, right. Kudos, I think, for her to get it. But all right. So on that thing, we're kind of running out of time, but we have to talk about sex trafficking, right?
Yeah.
How does that play? What happens? What did you see? Like, are the clubs full of women who are being sex trafficked? Because that's certainly what a lot of people would have us believe about these strip clubs.
At the clubs I've worked at, I did not see any actual human trafficking, and there were posters up in every bathroom, in the all over the locker room. If you were being trafficked, call this number, talk to a manager. Like there was, and when we had meetings, there was a conversation about it. Yeah. If you are in danger, talk to the staff. The management is your safe space, kind of thing like that. And so although I didn't see humans that were trafficked, there were entertainers with pimps, but they gave the impression that they wanted to be there, and this is what they wanted to do, and they weren't in danger or they weren't controlled. But I unfortunately don't know more than that, and that is sad because again, if you have somebody like that is controlling all of your money, you are not free.
Right.
And all of these, and the vast majority of those women that had these pimps, they would have done phenomenal on their own. They didn't need them. I don't know why they got into that circle, but I think that there was a lot of friends. And so if one friend is in it or two friends are in it, then it's easy to get in it.
Yeah. And what's the average age? What was the average age of the girls that worked in the club?
Most of them, it varies. Texas decided that if you were under 21, you weren't allowed to work in the club. So a lot of times there was a good amount of time where I'd see girls with wristbands, which meant that they were under 21 and they weren't allowed to drink. So they made sure they weren't drinking.
Right.
You had to be over 18, but you had to be under 20. If you were under 21, there was a band. But now since 18-year-olds, 19, 20-year-olds can't work in strip clubs. Now I think the average age has gone up a little bit, but there's a lot of mid-20s. Yeah. And the lovely thing is in the dark, you always look a little younger. Right. So, I know I have some of my lifers, women who have made careers out of working there, and they're in their 40s. And honestly, they look like they're maybe 31, 32. So they look really young.
I mean, I'm sure that, obviously most of these women, you guys are making pretty good money. I'm sure that especially if you're a lifer, you're probably investing a lot in your appearance too, right? Like the way you look, your hair, your eyelashes, your nails, your skin, right? Like everything.
If you're dancing on a pole, you got to be in pretty good shape.
Well, you got to be in pretty good shape too. But like, I mean, how easy, or not easy, but how common and how now affordable is plastic surgery?
Yeah.
It's really not. Like, I've now having seen rates of some stuff, I'm like, that's all they're charging for that now? Like,
rates have gone up a bit over the last like year or so.
Yeah, but in general, like I remember like being in like the 90s and people were like freaking out over like, oh, the new Playboy cover girl paid $25,000 for some double D's. Everybody would be like, $25,000 for tits, like what the fuck? And like now, literally, one of the old radio shows I worked on, we had a plastic surgeon who advertised, and like you could buy them for like $7,500.
Yeah,
like,
they're around that now.
Like they look better, they feel better, like all kinds of stuff.
They're amazing.
now.
The technology is phenomenal. Yeah, I would know. And so, like it's funny. We call it
great boobs, by the way, Tabitha. Yes.
Like their gummy bears came out a couple years ago, and now all silicone implants are gummy bear technology. So it sounds very official. But they're affordable. They are.
Yeah.
They used to be more affordable for entertainers because if you paid cash, you used to get a discount from plastic surgeons. But they've stopped that since
that's
COVID.
so interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so funny.
Yeah, I never
If you
thought
paid,
about
if you
that
paid
one.
cash, you got 5 or 10% off, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm paying cash," and then they didn't offer it, so I used my credit card instead, so I got miles.
That's so funny.
Priorities.
You could show your titties off on the beach.
right.
I
can fly to a beach and look amazing in this new bikini.
Exactly.
Awesome.
So before, because we're running out of time, one final question, especially because we just came off of like sex trafficking and stuff like that, and we're laughing now.
Yeah.
When you were dancing, your 3 best songs that you enjoyed dancing to.
Oh my God. That's a terrible question. There's so
Thanks.
much good music. I don't even know.
What about starting with like genre? Did you have like a particular genre?
I used to do a lot of classic rock.
Okay.
And I always knew the DJ hated me if you would play like Stairway to Heaven and Hearts, Magic Man. Because I'm like, why am I dancing to 6-minute songs, buddy? Now I love classic rock, but that just hurt. And that's how I learned how to tip the DJ.
Yeah. Like AC/DC, I'm guessing.
lesson.
Yes. Yeah.
Led Zeppelin, stuff like that.
Yeah, I love Zeppelin. I love the Doors.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like so much good classic rock, but also that played well with the like kind of my niche that I fit into. I found that gentlemen who grew up listening to that liked my aesthetic, and so it was very much like if they played another brick in the wall, I was gonna get a lot of money, and light my fire. It's just it's I know what. And that niche worked for me because they found me aesthetically pleasing, and I found their wallets very comforting. So
I love that. And just for those of you out there wondering, so her aesthetic, I would say it's a little bit like Girl Next Door. You're brunette, you're fairly petite, you are incredibly athletic, like shape, right? You're fit and you're strong. And she literally could live next door to you, next door to me. Everybody's going to love her. And she's got this great smile and a perky nose, right? So instead of like the blonde sort of, locks and the big boobs and tiny waist, she's not a Barbie doll. She's just a really adorable, sexy, hot, beautiful girl next door.
Well, thank you. And but I have worked with the Barbie dolls, and the Barbie dolls are definitely in demand because they're not what you see every day. And oh man, those girls could rake it in. I loved watching them work because they could just make anybody pay them all the dollars. It was amazing.
God, yeah, it's amazing, right? I wish I had that skill. So anyway, all right. Well, this was so interesting. Makes me want to go to a strip club, and I've only been once or twice.
It makes me want to change careers. I can't fathom making that much money where like you can walk in for that and like there is no budget in your mind. Like no.
Yeah.
I couldn't go anywhere without a budget.
Same.
Awesome.
I feel the same.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh.
All right. Well, thank you, Tabitha. You are amazing. I am sure that if you are willing, we'd love to probably have you back again. I'm sure we could go on for hours with more questions and hear more stories, but I'm trying to cram it all in. So
yeah.
But thank you. And all right, you want to tell them super quick how to reach us?
Yeah, Facebook and Instagram. You can go find us, follow us, like all our posts, all that fun stuff. Subscribe at Come With Us Podcast. On Twitter, it's at Come With Us Pod. Make sure you follow us on all those social medias. And then if you want to give us any feedback or ask a question or give us a topic to address, comewithusconfessions@gmail.com. It's comewithusconfessions@gmail.com. anything you want to tell us, whether you love it, whether you hate it. Hey, this episode I didn't agree with, or hey, why don't you do an episode on this? We want it. So comewithusconfessions@gmail.com. Hit us up there. And then wherever you're listening, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever, go to Apple Podcasts or go get your friend's phone who has Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and leave a review. My favorite thing to do when I was a podcast listener and not a podcast doer, go to the Apple Store or go to Best Buy where they have all the little like sample phones and just subscribe. Subscribe on all of them. I used to do that for one of my friends' podcasts at every single Best Buy I went to, and it was hilarious because his numbers spiked like crazy. And it worked too, because some people were like, we're going through and playing with a phone, and it was already playing when they were playing it. And they were like, oh, what's this? So,
I love that.
yeah,
We could
go do that.
surprise everybody.
Game
All
the
right.
system.
Come With Us podcast. That's right. Give us a review and put us on everybody. And hell, at least tell your friends too.
Yeah.
Right. Tell your friends. So, all right. Thank you, everybody. We will see you next week. And thanks for joining us for Come With Us podcast for the bare naked truth about love, sex, relationships, and strip clubs. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Come With Us podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media at Come With Us Podcast and send in your questions, comments, and confessions to comewithusconfessions@gmail.com. Until next time, keep it fun, flirty, and naughty.